Warzoners, welcome to the Warzone Chronicles. This is Alfie as usual, and today's video is not specific to Warzone, but it's something any war gamer, hopefully will be able to use. It's a technique, on priming, that I have been using for some time, and it's producing good results. It's not perfect, but it can be used, in situations when, for example, you can't spray or you don't have an airbrush or something like that to prime. Okay, so let's take a look and see how it goes. Okay, in this instance, we're going to use, a Wolfbane Pathfinder, just, washed and prepped a little bit. Okay, but we can use any mini really. I'll use this as well, for comparison. But yeah, it works with any mini, any material really. Also, what we're going to need is this. This is the stuff. I haven't tried any other primer, from any other brands or anything. So I would strongly recommend using, Vallejo. Okay, it comes with a range of different colors. I only have a couple, but also I strongly recommend, using an old brush, an old, open and, kind of like destroyed brush, because, this paint is actually quite strong. It has some kind of, I don't know if it's the pigments or something like that, but it's quite rough on the brushes. Okay, so don't use one of your good brushes. Okay, so we're going to get started. What we're going to do is we're going to prime it gray. Okay, so we're going to use a little bit of black and a little bit of white. Okay, the most important thing with this with this Vallejo primer, which is specific for airbrush really. Okay, but we can also use it for brush priming. Okay, but you need to shake it like there's no tomorrow really. Okay, so give it a good shake. Okay, and after a minute or so of shaking, here we go, we just put it in a palette. No need to thin it, no need to, I'm running low, I use it that much, you see. Okay, so just a few drops of black, and a few drops of white. Okay, I'm going to go for a 50-50. Okay, so that's a neutral gray. Okay, so no need to thin it, as I was saying. It's it's specific for airbrush. Okay, and here comes the fun part. Okay, as you can see, we have mixed a neutral gray here. So here comes the fun part. Okay, now it's just a case of splurging it all over the miniature, and don't panic, because this paint is so it's very well formulated, okay, and it's not going to eat up any detail. Okay, the other thing is that we might need to give it a couple of coats, that's for sure. As you can see, I'm making an absolute mess here, but it doesn't matter, because once it dries, it'll give it a really nice priming. Okay, so just that, as you can see, so in the back, get a little bit more. Oops. There you go, cape and everything. One thing that we need to cover all of the miniature with primer. Okay. Now, with the sword, I'm going to be particularly careful, because it's very delicate. It snaps quite easily. And that's it, really. The only thing that we need to make sure of is, not to leave any parts unpainted. Okay. We need to cover all of the miniature. So once dry, here's what it looks like. Okay, so you can see it's not perfect. Okay, it's not absolutely perfect. It's a little bit patchy in some places, but it's more than enough for for priming. To get paint on it. Okay, For comparison, let's take a look at the Attila here. Okay, as you can see, there's a little bit of putty here. You can apply a second coat if for example you want the priming to be the main base color. Of course, needless to say, that doesn't mean that you can just dip it in primer, or needless to say, that doesn't mean that I mean, you still have to move the paint around a little bit, so that it doesn't pull. But as you can see, once it dries, all the detail is practically intact. There's no pulling, and the detail is not, doesn't disappear under the coat of paint. Another thing that you can do actually from this point is, by all means, you can thin it a little bit. This one is, in this case, the priming, the primer was just slightly thinned, by dipping the brush in a little bit of water. Okay, and as you can see, it's a little bit, patchier. It doesn't cover as I mean, it's not as opaque. Okay, in this case, you can by all means, again, add a second coat. Okay, but yeah, by thinning the primer a little bit, it's easier to access the recesses. Okay, so from this point, you can start painting, or you can add, for example, you can spray it from the top with white, or to add a zenithal priming, or take it from there. Okay. All right, so there you have it. That's how you can prime with a brush. Okay. Needless to say, it's as I was saying in the intro. It's not a perfect technique. It has advantages and disadvantages. Mainly, I would say that the advantage is that it's definitely cheaper. A can of spray would cost you around the lines of a tenner, 15, euro or pounds. Whereas the report of Vallejo primer costs like a couple of quid or something like that. Another advantage is that you don't really need any. I mean, you can prime in under any conditions. You can do it on your on your office, or on your painting space. You don't depend on the weather, or anything like that. Another advantage is that you have more control over the color. You can create your mix, and things like that. So you can apply a priming that will act as as base coat. So then you can launch directly into applying shades and highlights. The disadvantages is that it's not perfect. It might be a little bit patchy at times. Another disadvantage is that it destroys your brush. Another disadvantage could be, for example, that you might leave some recesses. It can be hard to access some recesses. You could see probably in the demonstration, etc., etc. But overall, it's another tool in the box that you can use. Hopefully this video was useful for you. Alright, so that's the video for today. Thank you very much for watching. As usual, please consider liking, subscribing, and see you in the next video.